Before Justin and I had met, I was talking to Brad about something else, and I heard someone said they might raise a fund, and I said, you know, do you think you'd raise a fund? And he said, you know, I don't like managing other people's money. I love working on our own ideas, and I love working with really interesting entrepreneurs. And I said, it's like, do you know Justyn at SproutSocial? Like, we've had more, it's been more exciting to work with them. He talks about that, like, you know, as exciting as what they've done with Groupon and Inner Workings and Echo Global and all those.
Yeah, great to hear. Great to hear.
But one of the questions that came in is about you're out in the valley.
Yeah.
You chose to build the company here. I think two parts to the question. One is, what was your thought on building the company in Chicago versus Silicon Valley back then?
Yeah.
And second, you know, do you see continuing to be here?
Yep. So our reasons for sticking around back then were pretty selfish. It was I didn't want to move. I had a life here. Aaron had his wife here. We were from California, and wasn't, you know, I like Chicago at that point. So selfishly, we wanted to stay here. Now, it turns out, this wasn't foresight that we had back then, but I think that the success of Sprout would look very, very different had we gone to California. The fact that we decided to stay here, now I can tell you all the reasons why building here is a much better idea. At the time, it was just kind of you know, a lucky state of affairs that we didn't want to leave.
So, what do you think are some of the things that really helped? What made this a better place to live?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. Probably the primary one is just the talent workforce that we have here. Not that there isn't talent in Silicon Valley, but it's a different variety here. We were able to build a team not only more cost effectively. The cost of living was obviously very different. The cost of talent is very different. But also, you know, our retention from our employee base has been outstanding. I mean, I couldn't imagine anything like that anywhere else. And the ability, especially in a software company that moves quickly, for those original employees to still be around and still have that knowledge retained and to be able to share that and help us build the culture has been incredible. So there's a cost factor, but I think the talent factor is the biggest.
Coder and Abel, who, you know, from YPO, who's a great founder of Big Machines and has G2 Crowd. He's got a company out there and a company here, and he said it costs twice as much for an employee out there. Basically, it's the cost of housing.
Sure.
So much higher. And he said, and you know, the same loyalty.
Yeah.
So they're going to have more jobs here, even in the company that he bought into that's headquartered there.
Yeah.
Than they will here, because he feels like, you know, they couldn't have built Big Machines there in the same way, because, you know, the people just don't stick with things.
Yeah. And it's really, I think, counterintuitive for us to be a product that is so tightly integrated with Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Google and these companies that are all for us to do that 2,000 miles away. But it absolutely has been the best decision we could have made.
That's great. So people obviously are very interested. Brad and Eric, one of the most successful entrepreneurs anywhere. Talk about what were some of the benefits, and then we can talk about some of the idiosyncrasies.
Yeah.
What are some of the benefits of having two great founder entrepreneurs as investors early stage?
Certainly one of the biggest advantages we had is Brad and Eric have been very successful operators. They've built big companies. They have muscle memory on doing big things. And when you're starting out small, those things can be intimidating. And you may not be ready to make those kind of decisions and those kind of investments. But working closely with people like that who had done big things and been successful with it, and to kind of boost you up and say, no, it's all right. You think bigger has been by far the biggest probably benefit of working with operators as investors.
They do think big, that's for sure.
They do.
How do you open up new markets, especially with the change of language, culture, communication barriers, learning the language, dealing with the culture? How do you?
Yeah, so Jason Fried at 37 Signals told me something early on. He said, don't localize unless you plan to also staff in whatever that language is. So just localizing the product isn't enough, although that's challenging in and of itself. Our approach, and you know, it's yet to be seen how successful we are with this, was hire locally. We wanted people who could be part of our culture. We were able to find people with Spanish and Portuguese as well as English who were excellent at all of these languages, who could join us here in Chicago and be part of the team, and then go back and sell into the markets. Now, I think the key is you have to pick markets that have a high likelihood of success. So for us, that means a lot of social media usage, high adoption, high growth. That de-risks a little of the risk that's usually associated with going to new markets. You don't know how they do business, you don't know how they do those things. We also looked at markets where we already had a good amount of customers who were just tolerating the fact that we were in English because we were the best thing available. So we said, where are the customers who are coming in with different browser languages and those sorts of things where we think we can make the most hay? So de-risked it a little bit. The next couple will tell us more. And then, I think there are a lot of markets that aren't too dissimilar from the US and Europe. When you start to get into some of the Asian markets or Germany and Russia, for example, those are going to be very different. You've got to learn all of the how they do business, and in a lot of cases, you've got to have people on the ground there. We're not going into those markets initially, so we think that the success rate should be a little